So a lot of questions then for Portugal, probably none bigger than what to do, what role will be for Cristiano Ronaldo at 39 years old, obviously coming off a very productive season, even though it was in Saudi Arabia. Let's hear from Roberto Martinez about the Portuguese striker.
Acho que o Cristiano está a ter uns desempenhos com o seu clube muito consistentes. Não há dúvida que é marcador incrível. É o sexto europeu. É o único jogador que jogou 5 europeus. Então, estamos a falar de conseguir feito único no futebol mundial e a experiência é importante para nós. Depois, temos 23 jogadores de campo que criamos uma competitividade e o jogo toma decisões. Mas o Cristiano está preparado para ajudar a equipa e dar tudo o que ele pode dar. E não há outro jogador no futebol mundial que pode trazer num balneário o que o Cristiano pode.
Here's a look at Cristiano Ronaldo's numbers over the past 4 seasons. Of course, the last 2 in Saudi Arabia, including a historic 23-24 campaign. Interesting to hear Roberto Martinez there, not talking about necessarily on-field impact, but dressing room impact from Cristiano Ronaldo. That's not something we've always connected with him, is it?
No, I think certainly for Portugal, you can make that argument. You only have to look back to 2016 when they won the tournament. He goes on in the final. And I think you kind of saw some of his leadership during that final, which you kind of felt throughout the tournament that, and yes, he was at the peak of his powers at that time. But oftentimes he rubs it the wrong way in terms of some of his remonstrations on the park. But I've always felt it's very different from Portugal, or with Portugal, when he's very different with Portugal. And I thought that kind of shone through in 2016, as I say. So I am happy to have Cristiano Ronaldo in my dressing room. At the same time, though, if we only want to look back, 18 months ago, I thought he was more, particularly in terms of his playing, he was more liability than asset to Portugal during the 2022 World Cup.
He started Ale most of their recent competitive games. Would you start him throughout this tournament if you were Portugal?
Well, see, that's a loaded question. Throughout this tournament, I'm not so sure that would be my approach. I would go game by game if I'm Roberto Martinez. And frankly, if I'm Roberto Martinez, when I took over this job, my biggest decision was made right then and there in that moment in which I said, yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo is still around for this team. Because if I had gone and made what would have been the courageous and brave decision and saying, Cristiano, we appreciate your efforts, thank you very much, but we're going to go in a different direction, I think it would have freed Roberto Martinez to make more decisions and to actually explore what the possibilities of this team are going forward in the final third. But now that you have chosen to keep Cristiano Ronaldo involved in the group, then there's always this need or this demand or almost this obligation to at some point play Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you play him from the start? Does he come off the bench? Is he a problem coming off the bench? Is he an issue, even though he says that it's not quite the case in the locker room? Does that become an issue? Does the press then get on your back if you're not playing him? You should play him. And if you are playing him, then why are you playing him? This is a no-win situation, but that's a no-win situation that you brought on yourself, you're Roberto Martinez, because you did not make the decision at the very beginning of your tenure as a coach to say, you know what? I think we're better off without Cristiano Ronaldo. And they may not be. They may be better with Cristiano Ronaldo. But if that's the case, it's going to come down to the managerial decisions of Roberto Martinez. When to use him, when not to use him, and how to use him.
To that point, I'm not sure that Roberto Martinez is the manager or ever was the manager to make that kind of a call. Because of some of the relative feelings, shall we say, given his tenure at Belgium, that both Ali and Jules were just speaking about. He's not the man to come in and say, Ronaldo, you're no longer part of my plans. I think the backlash from somebody like Ronaldo, given his standing within Portugal, from his fan base, I'm not sure that Roberto Martinez has the body of work to back that kind of a decision up. Carlo Ancelotti can come in and say, Cristiano, you're no longer part of my plans, and everybody gets behind Carlo Ancelotti. But I just do not think that Roberto Martinez has that kind of a standing, that kind of a CV behind him to make that bigger call.
Fair enough, Shaq. But has that decision to keep Cristiano Ronaldo, has that resolved problems for him or created more issues for him? And that's, I think, the question here for Roberto Martinez. Okay, fine, you don't have the standing in the game, or you didn't have the guts to make the decision, whatever the case may be. You thought the more comfortable and more straightforward decision would be, Cristiano, you play until you want to. Okay, fair enough. He's earned that right because he's Cristiano Ronaldo. But man, now you have to come up with solutions and you have to come up with answers. And what we have seen from Roberto Martinez, at least at the national team level, is that those solutions and those answers aren't always the correct ones.
Jules, you and I were in Qatar. Ronaldo started that tournament as the starter for Portugal. He didn't finish the tournament as the starter. How confident are you that that same situation isn't going to repeat itself this summer?
I mean, nobody knows, really. I think I agree with the boys. Maybe he might start. And the good thing, I guess, for Portugal and Cristiano is that their group, unlike the Croatia group, for example, we spent in Italy, their group is good to start and to go from strength to strength. You know, Turkey, Georgia, and the Czech Republic. For this Portugal team, for Cristiano, this should be fine. It's maybe later, like in Qatar, basically, from the last 16, when you're going to face tougher opponents, tougher defenses, where he's 39 years old. If you want to play high and press high, he can't do it anymore. I mean, even today they tried against Croatia, and they play through them. So imagine if you replace Gonzalo Ramos, who runs, who can press, who can run, who's that kind of guy, that kind of number 9 who puts the effort in. You replace him with Cristiano and you try to press, no chance. Maybe again, against Georgia, that'll be fine. But if you play against a better team, that won't work. So Cristiano might well start the tournament and then Cristiano might decide, and then Roberto Martinez, might decide, well, the last 16 we play, I don't know, a tougher team. Then for that game, he's not suited. If Fernando Santos took the decision, and Santos and Cristiano had a father and son relationship, which I don't think Martinez and Cristiano would have right now. If Fernando Santos was able and brave enough in a way, I guess, to drop Cristiano, Martinez could do it, of course, even if Fernando Santos was obviously, and I think he could feel it, at the end of his tenure there, very much so in Qatar. For Roberto, it's all starting. So you would not want maybe to be at war with Cristiano a week in this tournament, but at some point, if that decision has to be made, because it would be quite obvious if Cristiano is good enough or not for those top games, then he will have to make it. Otherwise, it's not going to work.